Hello, everybody. This is Dane with the Standing Back Up podcast. Today, I'm here with my special guest, military veteran, Mr. Mark Booher. How you doing, my friend?
Hey man, I'm great. Dane, thanks for having me on.
Man, thanks for coming on, man. I'd like to have you guys on. I'd like to look out for our veterans best as I can.
Yeah.
Get more noise out there for you guys, if we will.
Well, appreciate that.
First thing I see, you're a tactical trainer, man. Do you
Yeah.
mean you like with the police officers and stuff like that, or just ordinary people?
Both. So my company, we've kind of got three buckets. We have a law enforcement bucket, if you will, where I'll do anything from like counter ambush. I used to do some counterterrorism back in the day, and then some not. There's a couple like investigatory or interrogation type courses because I got a background with that too. So we'll do that. And then there's a civilian component. So we'll train just security minded individuals who want to learn, be a student of the gun, whether it's pistol, rifle, empty hand combatants, whatever it is, and we'll take them as far as, we'll show them everything we know, in time. Can't do it in a day, but eventually, for folks that want to pursue that path, that's kind of what we offer there. And then there's a security consulting side where mainly churches but businesses as well, whether it's doing an on-site inspection of their campus or helping them develop policies and procedures or even training their teams, security teams. Yeah, we do that. And then we've done contracts with the Department of Defense, with the military, but more often than not, I'll just get military guys come out to the open enrollment classes. We don't do a whole lot just with like as far as particular units.
Yeah,
That's kind of a tougher nut to crack. So yeah,
yeah.
but we have.
Man, you said churches, man. I mean, that's something to think about right there. I mean,
Yeah.
think about that. That's where we're at in this world today. But that's where we're at, man.
Yeah.
And me and you talked a while ago about Second Amendment, and you think about that, and is that what people want? Want us not to be armed? So the only people that want to kill us are, it doesn't make any sense, man.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be, 50 some odd years ago, whatever. I mean, even the criminal element, there were just certain things that were off limits, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you could go victimize, you break into people's houses. I mean, you could have a shootout, or whatever, but you just didn't mess with churches, right? You don't mess with kids, you don't mess with churches. Well, I mean, that's definitely out the window as far as the churches go. There's nothing sacrosanct anymore with the criminal element. So, even if you're not in, you may not be a Christian or you may not be big into going to a church attendance or anything like that. You might think that doesn't affect you, but it does in the sense that that's a pretty big paradigm shift
yeah,
amongst the criminal element. And that shows you where society is, you
without a
know?
doubt. In my past, I was a criminal, but that's one thing that never crossed my mind was doing anything to a
Hmm.
church, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't a violent criminal by no
Right.
means, but I was a criminal. I was a
Yeah.
drug addict and done a lot of things that I'm not proud of, but I paid for all that. But yeah,
Hmm.
churches, man. I remember I was probably about, I'll say 17 or something like that, in a group of us, and these dudes were talking about breaking into church. I was like, man, there is no way. Even then, I was
Hmm.
like, and I didn't even, I'm a Christian now and I believe in God wholeheartedly, but I don't go to church, but I'm a spiritual guy. But even back then, before I really knew God, it was off limits. And I just can't see how people do it, but we hear it all the time. And
Yeah.
um, sad to think, that people that go to church have to be protected like that, but that's where we're
Hmm.
at.
Yeah.
It's,
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, I've been at this for about 10 years. And when I first started, it was really difficult to approach churches or to have these conversations because it was very compartmentalized. Like either the church was like, yep, we need a security team. Yep, we believe in the training. Yep, we're going to do it. Or there was the other side, and it was a very, um, like a very big divide where they didn't, on the other side, they didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want to have the conversation. No, we don't do that here. We're not going to do that. But within the last 4 years or so, man, that conversation's changing. Whereas at least now, there may be churches that don't have teams and aren't working on that, but at least they don't look at you like you're crazy or
yeah,
like that you don't have faith. The the attitude has definitely changed among the churches. it's palpable, man. I've
Yeah.
noticed it across the country.
Yeah. I didn't see, I was having a conversation with somebody and they was talking about what brought it up was the whole, the verse in the Bible where Jesus said, if someone's basically slapped you, you let them slap, or you
Mhm.
turn the other cheek. And of course, I went into my whole spiel about that. And we were talking about how the churches kind of came that way. And so I bet that's what you're meaning when you say they don't want a security thing. Oh,
Mhm.
no. Even if they come in, we can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't understand that mindset, man. I really don't. And I
Yeah.
can't, we'll get, that's a religion thing. We don't get on that.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I get what you're saying. I could see that point of them saying, oh, no, But I went to church a few years back and I remember seeing a guy with a thing in his ear. And I told my wife, I was like, look at that. She's like, what? What is that? And I was like, that's security. And she's like, here? And I was like, yeah, here. Uh,
Yeah.
it's sad, man.
Mhm.
So you said you've been doing it for 10 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you retire from military?
No, I'm
Oh,
that's kind of a funny story. So I came in a long time ago. I was 19. I went on active duty and I did that for a few years and I decided I wanted that to be my career. I was all about it. So I put in I wanted to get commissioned as an officer. So I applied for this program where basically they furloughed you out. It's called Green to Gold. They furloughed you out. You go you go to school, get your degree, come back in as an officer. Well, I kind of started experiencing physical issues, like I wasn't able to run, started having knee problems, back problems. Some of it probably service related from when I was
yeah.
in, but you're in your early 20s, you just ignore it, right? And then so I had a big break in service, had a 20-year break, and then in 2018, I spent that 20 years trying to find a way to rehab that. And
Okay.
so finally I got it to where it was manageable. I came back in 2018 and I'm in the guard component. So it's like a reserve type status
Yeah. We
now.
have a son that's in the Marines right now.
Mhm.
He's at Camp Lejeune right now.
Nice.
Um, he's not following all the rules right. And so he hasn't got to get deployed yet. And he's kind of bummed. These little things are getting him. But I
Yeah.
told him, man, hey, if you want to go and get deployed and all these different things, then you got to act right. He
Yep.
keeps saying, everybody else has got to go but me, man. And I was like, well, hey,
You,
maybe
you got to play
maybe
the game.
you
That's
got
for
to
sure.
play the game.
Yep.
I remember the experience. I'm not gonna lie, but I didn't want him to go in when
Yeah.
he said it at 15. I was like, man, I don't know that I want you to do that, but I never said it to him. I didn't tell him
Mhm.
that. I didn't want to crush his dreams or whatever
Mhm.
because that's what he wanted to do. But he's in for 4 years right now, and he's talking back and forth whether or not he's going to be
Yeah.
a career guy or not. I think he will be when it's all said and done. He's married and got the wife and all that stuff. Going to
Yeah.
have the kids, and so he's a good kid, man. That's the thing about him. Never had any trouble out of him. Never, nothing. No, he likes to drink now, but I guess that's what they do in there. But
Yeah.
before that, he never was no trouble. Um, so 10 years, do you get a lot of satisfaction out of it? Do you see a lot of people grow in it, like an individual, just an individual person, like
Yeah. Yeah. I
make
mean, that was kind of I guess the unexpected kind of thing part of it, as I got into it, I started doing it more and more. It's like, these folks are coming to a class, but over time, it's not just watching them improve their physical skills, but what that does mentally, psychologically, how they grow as a person.
right,
These things are useful, and it really doesn't matter whether it's guns or athletics or you play golf or basketball. It doesn't matter. Anything that's requiring an element of skill, there's life lessons with that, right? I mean, there's a mental focus, there's a mental game to it. You're trying to beat your last shot, and you start learning life lessons. There's a certain amount of confidence that you get from it, from anything, but much more so, when you're dealing with weapons. Because, I mean, I'm sure you could, but you don't see too many people defending themselves with a golf club. So,
no,
shooting firearms, it's kind of like golf. You're sending that projectile, down range where you want it to go, kind of like a hitting with a golf ball, but at the same time, you can protect yourself with it a lot better too.
yeah, it builds up your confidence in yourself.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
you know, me and another guy I had on was talking about like going somewhere to a restaurant and having to watch the door or whatever.
Hmm.
He has that mindset.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that I have that mindset too. But mine
Hmm.
comes from prison. And it's a different mindset, but it's
Yeah.
the same thing. It's
I
the same thing,
Yeah.
watching and I do that. I still do that. I don't ever want to stop doing that
Yeah.
because but I have to defend myself with my hands because I can't have a gun. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, a knife or whatever, but
Yeah.
that's okay. My wife knows how to shoot. She carries one, so she can
Yeah.
have one.
There you go.
Um, the warrior mindset, man. Let's talk about that. Like
Yeah.
what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we talk about in our courses, or we talk about a lot on our podcast too. I mean, I think it's like anything, it depends on how you define it. And I'm sure different people have different ways of what that means to them. I mean, for me, it just kind of it means to build that capacity to willingly expose yourself to adversity, to challenges, and to really find your path to growth by overcoming and then really becoming more than what you are. I
Mhm.
mean, we're living in a culture and a society now that is obsessed with comfort and security. Like,
Mm,
and I'm like me too, man. I like to be comfortable. I want to be safe, right? That's a you know psychological need, physical needs, right? But it goes beyond that, to where now, you hear these buzzwords like, oh, we've got safe spaces, or, do you feel comfortable here? Or can I say this? Can I use these words? Everybody's self-censoring. I mean, just everybody is so scared that someone's going to get butt hurt over something. You know what I mean? That
Man,
we're just creating cocoons for ourselves, for our kids, for everybody else, so that no one's ever having to build resilience, self sufficiency, grit, those types of things that are required by life. It's just like everybody's wanting to build this nanny state where, someone's just going to be watching over our shoulder, taking care of us, make sure we don't get our feelings hurt and everything. And anyway, that's just it's not healthy for society. I mean, societies aren't built on that paradigm. They
no,
certainly don't sustain themselves on that paradigm, because life is struggle, life is conflict,
yes, it is.
war sometimes. And if you don't understand how to behave, in response to a threat or just a challenge, right? It doesn't have to be a threat. It could just be, a challenge or an obstacle in your path that's on your way to, becoming more than what you are. If you don't understand or build that capacity within yourself, not only are you not going to, sustain yourself as a society, but as an individual, you're never really going to become who you were, I don't want to say meant to be, but who you could have been, right? You're never going to grow into that your full potential,
Yeah.
right? So I think having that warrior mindset, you don't have to be in the military to acquire it. That's where I got it, but you don't have to be in the military. You can find it in other places, but we're big proponents of that.
Yeah, I think I have it already.
Yeah.
Again, it's different struggles, but I unfortunately did 9 years in basically your bathroom. I mean, you think about
Yeah.
that in a way. And that's how I did it, man. With my mind.
Yeah.
I set my mind to say, look, I saw people around me losing their mind, literally,
Hmm.
watched it, over time. And I said, no, man, it's not going to happen.
Mm.
So I would work out, I'd read, I'd do all these things because I went in with a seventh grade education. It wasn't that I was dumb or whatever. I just never tried. I didn't try to.
Mhm.
Come to find out, I was highly, pretty smart and
Mm.
intelligent. So, but yeah, I did that. So I have that mindset too. Just like when I set my mind to something, I'm going to do it, and
Yeah.
I'm going to accomplish it. I'm not going to stop. And
Yeah.
I have the same way, and it comes the same way, whether it be in a fight or whatever. You have that mindset. I'm not going to let you beat me, and
Yeah.
you can put that into whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's your
Mhm.
job, your career, or whatever. I like that, um, and I think a lot of people want to run away from that.
Mhm.
They hear the warrior. Oh no, we
Yeah.
can't be that way. And I'm just like, I'm looking around, going, man, what's going on in America, man?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, you can look at the news and everything. I mean, I think in short order, we're going to be in a position where you're going to have to call upon that skill, or develop it. And it's a lot easier to start developing it now than it is, when the time comes that you need it and you don't have it. I mean,
Yeah.
and whatever the security state in the country, or how it's deteriorating, or even just economically, right? I mean, there's tough times are here, and I think they're going to get tougher before they get better, if
It
they get
def
better.
it definitely looks that way. I don't know what's gonna go on, and
Mhm.
I'm not a political guy by no means.
Right.
I've started somewhat paying attention to it just because,
Hmm.
and what I can say is what we got going on right now, something's wrong, man.
Yeah.
You know, we were just talking about it. It just seems evil to me.
Hmm.
And then I just saw a thing this morning where these people let in here are holding these rallies talking about death to America and all this, and they're not doing nothing about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, if I was to go up there and do that, they would put me in prison for domestic
Yeah.
terrorists, and all.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I can't understand that. I don't understand how people don't see that. Is it for votes? Is that really what it's for? What's really going on? Because they've put everybody in this country in jeopardy now.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah.
and more people should be calling you to take your classes and get your
Yeah.
courses.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I mean, I've got theories, and but I'm just like anybody else. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't see what goes on behind the curtains, up there, but it does seem sinister. I mean, it does. You do kind of take a skeptical look at things when you see it, and it's just like, man, if I was trying to safeguard this country, and if I was trying to adopt policies that would prosper people rather than bankrupt people, I think I would do it completely opposite. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I don't know, like I said, but I mean, you can definitely see it's not unheard of. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, because I don't know. I really don't know,
yeah, yeah.
but it wouldn't be unheard of, for a government to allow a security crisis to materialize, and then come in, and then impose, come in and solve the problem that they allowed to create, so that they could structure things in a way that was beneficial to them.
I see. I haven't ever thought about it that way.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. That makes a lot of sense what you just said.
Yeah.
Let
And
me swoop it.
I don't know. I'm just saying, if I'm just looking around, I was like, man, that's definitely one way of looking at it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, because if you think about it, we're right now type of people, really.
Hmm.
And okay, we got the problem. Everybody came in, but then if these somebodies up and solve the problem, what they did in the past is a thing of the past. No one's
Hmm.
going to think about that anymore.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
only going to. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Kind of
Yeah.
like, in a way, you could look at it as playing chess to figure out what move they're going to make. Is that the
Hmm.
move? Is that the move they're going to have to make, or is it going to fall in their hands the other way? I see that
Yeah.
now. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Peak performance, man. What's peak performance?
Well, it's kind of like going back to that warrior mindset thing. It's just like finding, demanding of yourself and putting yourself in positions where you can perform and be at your best. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So again, I think everybody, there's a lot of people, they want things. They want, if you ask somebody, hey, what do you want to do? They're like, oh, I want to make $1 million. And then they're going to sit and play video games all day. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's not enough just to say the goal, but to formulate a plan of action and then execute on that,
yeah,
and bringing that mental game into it to where you discipline yourself,
yeah,
to do that. So again, those are the things that we like to talk about on our podcast and even in classrooms, but the firearms and the weapons tactics, that's just kind of the medium, that's the mode we use to kind of deliver it.
yeah. Do you think that's what gets people interested? The weapons part of it. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know that for a fact. There's been people come to our classes, that either they just enjoy it, just like someone going on golf. It's a hobby. Requires skill. You develop the skill, and so they get satisfaction out over that. We've got folks that are interested because they want to be able to better protect themselves and their family, and then you got some people who, it's a combination of both, right? But then over time, they start seeing, hey man, this is doing something to me psychologically, mentally, this is making me stronger. You know, I was just out in Pennsylvania a couple weekends ago, and man, I'm down in the South. It was pretty warm. It was 70 degrees, in early spring. And then I rolled up there, man, and it's like in the 30s, and it's
Mm.
downpour rain. And, everybody was out there in it, man. It was miserable. It sucked, but
Yeah.
they were having a good time because, you know, being in the army, you're forced to do that, right?
Yeah.
So you learn, hey, you know what? I'm not going to melt. This will be over eventually. You start building resilience to just simple things as just being out in the elements. But for folks that haven't had that are working a 9 to 5, one guy came up to me, he said, he's like, I'm so glad we did that. Like, that was really good for me to see that I could go out there and something as simple as that, like endure that, and not only endure it, but have a good time.
Yeah.
But he's like, I probably would have never chosen that for myself. If it was just me and my buddies and we were going to go out to the range and shoot and it was weather like that, we probably would have just stayed home. But
Yeah.
because it was a class, they paid for it, it was on the calendar, they took off for it, you know what I mean? So it kind of forced them to do it. So, in the military, it's kind of easy to learn those lessons because it's imposed upon you. On the outside, it's hard because you have to depending on your profession, but with most people's jobs, you have to voluntarily put yourself in those situations to seek
Yeah.
adversity and challenge.
Yeah. And that's hard. Things like that, little things,
Hmm.
being out in the rain, oh man, you got an umbrella or
Hmm.
all these little things. Nobody would probably choose to go out in 30-degree weather to shoot on a
Yeah.
normal day. You're right. Or to do whatever it is.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the comfort thing. That's what
Hmm.
we want,
Yeah. Because I mean, I'll tell you, I was miserable.
Yeah.
It's not that when you, and I think that kind of goes back to peak performance and warrior mindset. It's just you can still be miserable, but it's just over time of being exposed to that, you know how to manage discomfort and pain or stress or anxiety so that you can perform and you can move forward and get on the other side of it. That's what it's really about.
Yeah.
And even something as trivial as, hey man, it's raining, it's cold, it sucks, nobody wants to be out there, but just realizing, hey, you know what? At the end of the day, the hours are going to pass, it's going to be over. I'm going to be back in a new set of clothes,
Mm.
in a warm building, eating and drinking, and then talking about how much fun we had. You know what I mean? It's very
Yeah.
simple, but that's how you build momentum. That's how you build resiliency in your life, with small steps, right?
Yeah.
Small lessons. But
Mind over matter, man.
yeah, exactly.
Um, that's what it was for me getting sober.
Hmm.
The main thing was I always told myself I couldn't and that I wouldn't.
Mm,
That was the biggest mistake I was making.
yeah,
Um, and then I didn't believe in myself. That's another thing. We have to learn to believe in ourselves, man.
you really
Um,
do.
and that's what I tell people all the time. They say, "Man, how did you get sober?" First God, but first of all, I stopped telling myself that I couldn't. I
Hmm.
took that can't word out,
Hmm.
and I quickly learned all the things I could do.
Yeah.
And it's amazing when you get that mindset, man, and it's very important in life.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything in life because
Yeah,
and sometimes when you're going through bad times, or sometimes people will ridicule you, especially if you dream big, if you have big goals, people will ridicule you. They'll be like, "Ah, you're not being realistic," or, "Oh, this is my favorite when people say, 'Oh, that's just positive thinking.'"
yeah,
As though anybody ever built anything or did anything great without a belief in themselves. You
yep,
know what I mean? Like, who
yeah,
did that? Who's done that? You know what I
yep,
mean? Um, you know what I mean? So yeah, it is just positive thinking. Yeah, it is, but that's where it starts, right? You have to generate that about yourself. You have to, even if you doubt yourself, you still have to tell yourself that you can do it, that you will do it, that you will succeed. And you run that script because, everybody else in society is telling you exact opposite. If you don't begin to tell yourself healthy, encouraging, powerful things, who else is going to do it? right? I
Exactly.
mean, who else is going to come and tell you those things? And
Yep.
even if they were, it wouldn't mean anything, right?
Nope.
We've all had someone tell, "Oh, I'm sure you'll be fine. Oh, I'm sure you'll do well." And you still felt the anxiety of whether you're taking a test or having to perform or something, right? It's not good enough for someone to tell you. You have to accept that about yourself
Yep.
and do
And
that.
man, you're speaking my language, man, because that's what I found out about myself. I found
Yeah.
out a lot of things, man. I was different. Not that I'm any better than anyone. I don't mean that, but
Yeah.
like when I was in prison, I'd look around at people and I was just like, I don't think like you do.
Yeah.
The shit you're in there thinking about and you're talking about. But then I'd get out and get on drugs and same thing. I violate parole, I go back.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm getting at is that my mind was different. Like I knew I wanted more and I
Mhm.
knew I was capable of more. I
Yeah.
just had to figure out how to open that demon inside of me to have more. And I got it now. And I've got the ridicule. What do you know about podcasting? I don't know, but I'm gonna learn it.
Yeah.
That that
Yeah.
simple. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
And then I started a business, appliance business, very successful one by myself, no training, never went to school for any of it. I got the same thing, even from someone very close to me. Oh, you can't do that. That kind of drove me a little bit more, to be honest about it. But I
That's
did do
awesome.
it, and
Yeah.
but that's not the road I'm on now. I still do it a little bit here and there, but
Yeah.
I'm into other things now. But I get it all the time. And then I got the people who don't want me to succeed, man.
Mhm.
They
Oh,
look
yeah.
at it and say, "Oh man, I've lived a good life for 20 years. I don't have you didn't want success. Your success that you wanted was different than what I have.
Mhm.
You don't have the drive that I have."
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like about people, man. These Debbie Downers, I call them. Why tell someone what they can't do? Tell them what they can.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a dad in my life telling me what I could do. I
Mhm.
had people telling me I would never amount to anything, and I believed that shit for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the worst things we can do to a kid, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
Is
sure.
because you
Yeah,
believe it.
everybody is so anxious to have you live their version of your life,
Yeah.
for you, even
Yep.
though they don't have to deal with the consequences. They don't have to deal with the aftermath of whether or not you made the right decision or the wrong decision. I mean, it is funny how society is. I see what you're saying. They definitely seem to be like that because I've had that for me too. When I would want to go do certain things or I'd pursue certain things in my military career, whatever. It's like, man, why are you trying to do that? You're too old for that. Why do you want to do that? And it's like, I understand, like, if someone's curious, right? Like, what is it about? But that's not how they do it. It's always done from like a position of judgment. And,
Yep.
I don't know if it's because I guess it depends on the person, right? Maybe someone wish that they would have done it and they're jealous of you, or they don't respect it or they don't like it, or sometimes it's just an ego thing where just people there's there's something in the human heart that just wants to control and
Yep.
dictate everything, even
Yep.
other people. They probably wouldn't admit that or say that to you, but that's exactly, I mean, where else does it come from? I
Yep.
mean, what else? Why else would they say that? There's like, you don't want to do that. Well, yeah, I get you wouldn't, but I do. So
Yeah.
why can't you just let me do it and encourage me and be happy about it?
It's a
Why do you want to try to bring everybody's always wanting to bring you down to their level? And so
Yep.
yeah, it took me, unfortunately, it was later in life before, I was just like, man, I'm not gonna listen to that shit, because I'm the one that's got to live my life.
Yep.
When I'm done, I've got to look back on it and I don't want to have the regrets,
No.
and those people aren't going to deal with it. I am. So I
Yeah.
have to make those decisions for me because of me, not because of what they think or good or bad.
Yeah. And I think that's what you hit the nail on the head with the jealousy thing. It's like because they don't have the wherewithal or the drive or whatever it is inside of them to do the things that we do.
Yeah.
To step out on that limb and say, "This is what I'm going to do," and
Yeah.
they can't fathom it in their mind because they've never thought about doing it. They never had the desire to do it, and so it's so foreign to them. And then, like in my case, I think it's really more about definitely jealousy, but my past failures.
Yeah.
If you've lived a life of a screw up, that's pretty much what people expect. You can't
Mhm.
you can't doubt them for that.
Yeah.
But when someone changes and you see that they change, you should be encouraging, but they're just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I had one guy said, he didn't say it to me, he said it to someone else. He said, when I started the appliance thing, he made a comment and said, man, if them people only knew who Dane was in their house. and it got back to me, and I thought, man, and this is someone that was almost like a brother to me, and I was
Yeah.
like, man, that's real shitty to say.
Yeah.
Other than congratulations on him, man. Look at
Yeah, I
him go.
know. I know.
It doesn't make any sense. So you got a podcast too? What's the name of
Yeah,
your
I
podcast?
do. It's called Pearl Snap Tactical Podcast. So yeah, we cover, obviously as the name would imply, the tactical part at the end.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some of that stuff. We kind of cover some stuff that, like, if you were to take courses from us that we don't get a chance because of time and the venue to get into, so we kind of supplement the training that way, but it's standalone. I mean, you don't have to come to the training events to get something out of it. But then we also have, I have guests on, that talk, trying to get in that warrior mindset and, that type of thing. So I've had some guests on that have some pretty interesting stories, or we'll kind of talk about, like, building that warrior culture, because this is something that me and my buddy I do it with, Alex. He was in Ranger Battalion. He's got a really cool story off on his own, but that's something we really believe in. In the past, like, if you go far but not enough back into antiquity, like if you go into the, I'm talking about like pre-Socratic era, like in ancient Greece, right? So the citizens were the warriors, right? Before there were
Mm-hmm.
professional militaries. And so all of their sports, all of the things that they did, the games that they play, were geared towards preparing the men for battle, right? So, originally, like with the Olympics, it was like foot racing,
Yeah.
wrestling, boxing, these were things, and it wasn't a spectator sport, right? You didn't just go and watch, you participated, right? If you were
Right.
going to be a fully fledged, citizen at some point, right? You obviously you age out of that thing, but like everyone, participated. It wasn't just a consumer culture, right?
Right.
Or you move on down into other areas. You may have been a farmer, you may have been a fisherman, but you had skills with the blade, right, in case your village was invaded or taken over. But the point is that, men especially, that warrior culture was pervasive, right? And you see it in the stories, in the epic poems, whether it's the Iliad or whether it's Beowulf or the Icelandic sagas, whatever it is, that these were the cultural templates for the people. And we've totally lost that, right? We've totally lost that. In this modern era, we've gotten so far away from it, and now we've got a professional army, which I'm not debating the merits of that, or saying we need to go back to the draft or whatever. That's a political thing. I'm just talking about, like, culturally, that now we've just kind of outsourced that. And now, even in sports or whatever it is, most people are just more spectators of their lives. Instead, I
Right.
mean, it does have its effect to move away from those warrior disciplines. Now we've created a society of just spectators instead of creators of their own
Right.
life. You
Yeah.
know, you have dudes that are morbidly obese that just sit around all day and they'll watch, 3 or 4 football games in a row. I'll watch football too, but they'll never go out and play it. They'll
Right.
never participate it.
Mm-hmm.
Participate in it, and it's a shame. I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Socrates, but it was one of the philosophers that's like, one of the biggest shame it is for a life is to not experience the full capacity of the human body, not
Yeah.
to develop, what God gave you, and to experience what it's like to run, what it's like to climb, what it's like to struggle, and, physically. And I understand some people have disabilities and they can't do that and everything. But I'm talking, but for those who don't have that, impediment, not to be able to experience that willfully because they rather sit around and just consume and watch other people. There's nothing, taken to its extreme, it's not healthy,
No.
physically or psychologically. And it's created these, I think, some of these societal issues too that we've talked about, that we've been talking about the last few minutes,
Yeah.
so we definitely are trying to talk about those things on the podcast too, and just how people can create that in their life. And you know, and I think obviously I'm passionate about it, but man, it's a journey. It will change you as a person. You
Without
know,
a doubt.
it'll
You
set you on a new
exercise,
path. Yeah, yeah. So
exercise, man. You
yeah.
know, my last time in jail, I was only in there. I was just having to finish out. I had a real long sentence, and I was just having to finish it out. I had a little violation on it, or whatever. But
Hmm.
me and Beth were talking about it. She was like, "While we were together, she's like, that's the worst time that I've ever seen you have in jail." And I was like, "I just never could get it together in there." And the reason why was because I didn't work out. I
Mm.
didn't exercise while I was in there. You
Yep.
know, and people don't understand what that does to your mind, man, and what it does for you, what it opens up inside of you.
Yeah.
Um, and sitting around again, I like football too. You know, I
Hmm.
love football too, but I will go outside and throw a football and play some
Hmm.
football. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not real big keen letting nobody tackle me or nothing like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but exercising, man, just being because it doesn't take us long to get to where we can't move, man.
Hmm.
And me, I'm getting older and was just talking about the other day, you know, going up the steps of the bedroom. I'm just like, man, I got to get out and start doing more. My
Hmm.
legs, you know,
Hmm.
because now I'm pretty much here at the computer and doing stuff all the time. And I was like,
Yeah.
getting
Yep.
away from that, man.
Yeah.
I'm going out and walk and stuff
Yeah.
because heart attack and all this different stuff. All right,
Oh
my
yeah.
friend, tell us how we can find your stuff, man. How everybody can get in touch with you.
Yeah, man, I'd send people to two places. Number one, the podcast, if they're into, I mean, obviously they're interested in podcasts if they're listening to this one. So Pearl
Yeah.
Snap Tactical, that's Pearl Snap Tactical, 3 words, just like the shirt, Pearl Snap shirts,
All
you know,
right.
everybody wears down here in Arkansas, Tennessee, and somewhere
Yeah.
around. So, yeah, just Pearl Snap Tactical. It's on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you go to listen to your podcast, you'll find us there. And then the website, if you're interested in what we do or linking up with us or seeing where we're at, we travel to different states doing different courses. It's barritusdefense.com, BARRITUS defense.com.
All right, my friend. I want to thank you for your time, man. It's been interesting to me.
Yeah, Dane, man,
Uh,
I had a good time. Thanks for having me
Me too,
on.
man. Look forward to it. If you ever have anything new coming out and you want to get some news out there for you, just shoot me a message, man. We'll get it done for you guys.
Awesome. I will.
I'll
Thanks,
get this
man.
episode out. This episode will be out later, man. I get them out quick, so it'll be out
Cool.
tonight. All right,
Yeah,
my
just
friend.
send me the link and I'll share it to my folks too.
Still will too. I do will. Couldn't get that out. Will do, my friend. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Keep up the good work, man.
You too. Thank you.
All right, man. See you.